So, as the Zoom lady just said, recording in progress. And I am Jim Freund. With me is Randee Dawn. This is June 25th, Randee claims. I don't know. I'm not, if I'm a morning person, there's usually like a 5 preceding the AM as opposed to an 11. And it's about 10:30 or something like that. So we are here. Randee's been on before, but not as a first-time novelist. As a
true.
As a short storyist, as a producer of readings, which are still going on because she has the luxury of ice cream that that is to say on the roof of an Ample Hills place. And no, he just missed one, right? It was last week.
Correct. Yeah, it was last Tuesday. The next one will be the third Tuesday in August, which is the same day as my book comes out. My book comes out.
Okay, and are you doing a celebration? I hope, trust.
Well, yeah, I'm doing the typical 3 author reading. It'll be me, Jonathan Botner, and C.S.E. Cooney. And but I've also been given permission to have like champagne, and I might do some giveaways. You know, it'll be like a mini book party along with a regular reading.
And the exact date of that will be
August 16th. So it's this third Tuesday in August 16th.
And the address?
Oh gosh, you'd think I'd know this off the top of my head. It's Nevins. Well, it's on Nevins Street. I think it's 315 Nevin, but it's Ample Hills in Gowanus on Nevins Street. The address will definitely be on the internet, and you can also go to my website and find it there as well.
And find tickets because
yeah, there's links to tickets. You go to the Ample Hills website; they will have the tickets. It's recommended you buy them.
Which we need to mention on non-commercial radio are not free.
Correct.
But they're also not expensive. So
yeah, it's $10. You get in for the reading.
You can't say that.
I can't say that. Okay, I'm sorry.
I just said that it's one of the rules of non-commercial broadcasting.
Sorry.
We can't give prices.
I apologize.
Oh, so we'll just put a little bleep.
Okay. I got bleeped. Okay.
Yeah. And not for anything that people should get bleeped for.
Right, exactly.
But for that, tune in tomorrow. Oh, well, that's the name of the book.
Yes, it is.
And it is fun. I'm not done reading it. I have to admit, but when I am doing nothing else, that's all I am doing.
Oh, I like to hear that. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I'll at the risk. I can't be offending you because it's a fine writer, but at the risk of offending you, what it reminds me a little bit is of if Piers Anthony had evolved.
I'll take that. You know, I know that he's problematic these days, but I was a huge Piers Anthony fan in like middle school. High school, I did a book report on A Spell for Chameleon. I'm a huge fan.
That's the first, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the first in the Xanth books. Obviously, he has many others.
I'm thinking of the Xanth books because
right, exactly.
That's what Tune In Tomorrow reminds me of that. And I was just waiting for the Centaur Isle, and I didn't have to go halfway into the book before I found it.
Yes, we have centaurs.
Yeah, but the use of the word.
Right. Right, of course.
So there are humans and mythics. There are soap operas.
Mm-hmm. Soap operas, reality shows, a little bit of both.
Yeah. Although all reality shows, even the British Bake Off,
there's a certain level of soap opera. For sure.
Yeah, and even my favorite one, which is on right now in the background, which is the bears in the Katmai Mountains catching salmon.
Oh, okay. That's a soap opera too?
Absolutely. At the end of the season, which is October, you get to vote on the season's fattest bear.
Oh, okay. There you go.
They start out, they come out in the winter, after the winter, at about a mere 500 to 600 pounds. But before they hibernate, they need to raise that to somewhere between 13 and 1600.
Oh boy, that's a lot. That's a lot of salmon.
Yeah, that's a lot of salmon. They don't.
And I like salmon, but that's a lot of salmon.
Yeah, yeah. I do it once a week. They do about 15 an hour. And
have you? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And what makes it a soap opera is everybody has their favorite. You know, there's Chunky, there's Lefty, the Rangers. You know, they're spoil sports. They're number 480. No, that's Otis.
Right. Right.
Otis is everybody's favorite. Otis, or should be. Otis is 19 or 20 years old.
Yep.
Which is old.
Yep.
Old for a bear. And if he isn't the fattest, he deserves to be.
Well, I like Otis just for that reason.
Yeah, and he's non-aggressive. He has his own little corner, and where most of them are swiping, he just looks down, makes one swoop, and like a heron, picks up the salmon. And the only part that's hard to watch is watching them peel. Yeah, it's like flaying. No, but you root for your favorite.
Right. And
they have relationships with each other. And it's like, oh, no, Holly, don't bring the cubs there. That's not a good thing. So, yeah, it's a soap.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the whole soap concept, whether or not it's an official Young or the Restless, Bold and Beautiful, that kind of thing, that whole melodramatic tune in tomorrow, you know, continuing stories of it just threads through so much television. I mean, you know, Grey's Anatomy has been on what, like 18 seasons now. That's a once a week primetime TV show, but it's a soap. I mean, you know, you had a character who got impaled by an icicle and lived.
Yeah,
you know, crazy things like that. So I think that we love soap operas, but we have kind of turned away from the traditional daytime soap opera. And when I turned in my original manuscript, Tune In Tomorrow was the show called Tune In Tomorrow, in the book called Tune In Tomorrow, was very much considered like a soap opera. And the advice was, look, can you make this more of a reality TV show? Because people watch reality TV these days and not so much soaps. And I was like, you know, I can do that because they are cousins. They are cousins, if not, you know, half siblings, really. The reality TV show that we watch today, you know, things like Selling Sunset, where they call it an occu-soap, as in it's an occupational soap opera. People go, you know, you watch these people in their workplace, and they were already working there when the show started, so it's not totally fabricated, but there's always a little bit of tweaking here and there. Or wouldn't it be cool if we sent them over here and see what happens and all of that?
Yeah.
So
then there's the repair shop, which is closer to being an actual occu-soap.
Occu-soaps.
Yeah, it's sort of a cross between the the show where they bring in stuff from the attic to see how valuable it might be.
Oh yeah, like Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah, it's a cross between the Antiques Roadshow and the baking show.
Yeah, I watch Swap Shop on Netflix, which is, I think it takes place in, I want to say, Tennessee, and there's all these cool little antique swap shop, thrift store type places, and the people who run them keep on acquiring. You know, it's like a legitimate form of hoardership.
Yeah.
And there's a radio show, speaking of radio, where they announce I think it's once a day or once a week or something, you know, this is Swap Shop, and here are the items that you can go get, and here's where you go get them, and if you're looking for this. And these people close up their shops and run out and get more stuff.
Yeah, it must be a commercial station.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I imagine.
Otherwise, BAI would be doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But I love it. I love it because I'm very into, you know, I don't need this thing anymore. It doesn't have to become trash. Would somebody else want it? And, you know, there's all these groups like Buy Nothing or Free Cycle, where if I don't want a thing anymore, I can go on there and say, please come to my house and take this thing away from me.
Yeah.
And the benefit is I don't have to throw it out. I don't have to call the trash people to pick it up. I don't have to bag it up, and somebody else will use it, which is even better. So I'm very much into that stuff. You know, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So anyway, that's a bit far away from reality shows, but that's a kind of reality show also. And we love those things. We love it because it's a human drama and it's unpredictable. And it tells us a story because it's crafted that way. And when I was writing Tune In Tomorrow, I was sort of thinking, well, what kind of entertainments would fantastical creatures love? You know, I mean, we love looking at fantasy shows or sci-fi shows, and there's castles and there's dragons and there's all this, there's spells and potions and all that kind of thing. What would they like? And I started thinking, well, we like the things that would probably be very mundane to them. Those things are like, it's every day. Of course we fly. What are you talking about? I was thinking that they would find the things that are very mundane to us very exciting, as in, oh, look, 2 taps on your faucets. What is embezzlement? You know, tell me about this thing called a bookmark. You know, the things that are really like, why would you care about them? But they love that stuff because that's not part of their universe. And that led me to, well, some of the most mundane storytelling in the best possible way. I am a big supporter of soap operas, is in soap opera because it's the minutia of daily life, often turned to 11, but it's a lot of, you know, babies and marriages and divorces and adulteries and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're an entire species that doesn't really propagate, I mean, we don't hear a whole lot about fae babies. I mean, we occasionally do with changelings, but mostly that's not part of the universe that we know of from them. That's the kind of thing I thought they'd be into. So we started with soap operas. We blended it with reality TV, which also allowed me to then have characters who believe that what they're watching on TV is reality.
Which
Like,
many people watching a lot of totally fake reality shows believe that they are unscripted, and they are unscripted. They're just not pre-planned, like a wrestling match.
Exactly. They're much more scripted in my book because I wanted to have a writer and I wanted to have a writer's room. But yes, there's, even if you don't have a literal, you say this, it's guided. They've got to have the cameras there. They got to get clearances. They got to do all sorts of things behind the scenes that you as the viewer don't think about. So of course there has to be some sort of structure in even the most, you know, even like the Kardashians or whatever. I mean, the things that they show on those shows, those things are the things that people will then want to watch. If you put a reality camera in my house, you'd see me reading a lot. And that's not interesting. These characters don't read. I mean,
depends on what you're reading, but yeah.
Well, that's true. But watching me read, I don't think that's going to be very interesting. Reading aloud, maybe, but.
Yeah, maybe so. And speaking of which,
yes,
is that something you wanted to do?
Yes, I am happy to read from the book. I have a copy right here. I made a bookmark.
It was just such a perfect segue I had to.
Well, if you'd like me to read now, I am perfectly happy to read now.
Oh, why not? Yes, absolutely. We're about 13 minutes in for what that portends. And about how long will the reading be?
How long would you like it to be? I mean, I have a big book here, but I don't want to go too deep into this. I'm thinking, you know, less like 10 minutes, maybe less than 10.
10 minutes would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
10 minutes or less are fine, given the amount or lack thereof. I shouldn't say that. The show is half the length it used to be, but now it's prime time.
There you go. It's the prime cuts.
Hey, 9 p.m. Good time slot after 40 years of 5 a.m. and then bouncing around 2 a.m. Midnight wasn't bad, but 9 p.m.
That's good. That's a good slot. That's prime time.
It really is. It really is.
Are you a reality show?
I'm like the opposite. I'm sort of the irreality show.
The unreality show.
The unreality show. I think you just coined it for me.
There you go.
Right there. if ever Hour of the Wolf, that would work. Hour of the Wolf, the unreality show.
Ooh, I like that actually.
Yeah.
You can have that. That is for you.
Yeah. Well, I passed the 50th anniversary of the show, so I'll have to find another landmark.
Right, of course.
Yeah, people look puzzled when I say I've passed the 50th anniversary of the show, but the show began in 1971.
It is impressive. It is very impressive to have that kind of long run.
Scary.
In anything.
Scary. Yeah, well, the first 3 years were Margot Adler, and then
and then you took over.
And I took over, and I co-hosted with Margot
Mhm.
2 out of the 5 days a week. Yes, it used to be 5 days a week.
That is a lot more. That's the other thing I was going to say about soap operas is they're turning out a show a day,
Yeah,
5 days a week. They're making like 2 movies every week. So of course it's going to be a slightly different level of storytelling than elsewhere, but I have so much admiration for those actors who have to do
but
60 pages a day sometimes.
yeah, if I don't remember to say it, and I probably will because it's about me, after your reading, I want to mention my connection to soaps and the
Ooh,
like.
I want to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you may already know something of it.
I think I do, but I want to hear it again anyway.
And if you saw my Facebook post of about 3 months ago,
Right. Oh, yes, yes. I do
yes,
remember that.
okay, then you know about that.
Right.
Okay, but I won't shut up, but I will mute.
Okay. He'll just be sitting there talking away. Nobody will be able to hear him,
Yeah, there we go. Okay,
All right. So shall I begin?
absolutely.
All right, great. So this is from Tune In Tomorrow, and just a very quick bit of background. It's about a reality show slash soap opera run by mythical creatures for mythical creatures, but starring humans. And our lead, the newcomer is Star Weatherby. She's been hired on the show. She's learning the ropes. She's also learning that there's some dark underbelly here, including her predecessor, who just kind of disappeared one day. Nobody will talk about where this predecessor went. So she has undertaken a bit of an investigation. She's been told to go look at some old scripts. Unfortunately, the scripts are being kept in the cave at the front desk, the cave behind the front desk, because their security guard is a dragon. And you know what happens when you go in and try to mess with a dragon's valuables. So I have not read this one aloud yet, so you're getting a first look at this section. I'm hoping it all works out. So this is that section of the book where she plots to go into the cave. On the surface, Phil made sense as a security guard. He was a proper, enormous dragon, theoretically full of fire in the belly and leftover meat in the teeth. But so far as Star had seen, Phil was a receptionist. For one thing, his belly fire was mostly a small, flickering flame. My therapist says I got a lack of confidence, he muttered to Star some weeks back in his tractor-trailer-sized voice. I got issues. One of which was that flame, which meant he'd be more likely to smoke things than scorch them, and the fact that he'd never consumed a human. Yet, he always made sure to add, third eyelid nictitating over one lightning bolt pupil. It was meant to be a threatening gesture, but mostly it made him seem like he was winking at Star. His issues left him with a smaller skill set and fewer job prospects than most dragons of his size, which meant he put extra effort into guarding the contents of his cave, a jagged, rocky opening that burst from the wall behind the reception desk like an explosion and emitted damp breezes. Yet Star hadn't experienced pushback when she asked if she could go through the archived scripts he held back there. I'm sorry, she hadn't expected pushback. I'm not sure if I said that. Much had happened in the Centaur Park nexus, but the action item that had stuck with her was Nico's advice to read Joseph's old scripts, which she knew were kept in the archives of the cave. For weeks, Phil had refused her entry. It's a mess back there, he said. I don't get visitors. He hadn't budged when she promised to leave any gold or jewelry alone either. The mere mention of precious valuables had made the spikes on his back rise up, piercing his gray shirt. Sparks had shot from a corner of his mouth. Star went back to the drawing board, refusing to give up. The scripts were the one tidbit of useful intel she'd gleaned from that bonkers afternoon in the Nexus, and she'd held onto that thread with both hands as the weeks dragged by. There was no section in the guide about how to deal with dragons, and back home on her side of the veil, the internet was so chock full of dragon lore as to be virtually useless. She wasn't going to stab him with a lance, and Oleander had no tea that would knock out a creature of that size. Besides, someone would notice an unconscious security dragon if they did that. One idea with potential came from a web-based cooking show about historical meals, in which she learned that some dragons could be felled with huge servings of Yorkshire parkin. She made 8 trays of the sticky gingerbread cake and hauled them in, and they disappeared down Phil's expansive gullet in less than a minute. He belched and left a smoky stain on the far wall, then went back to being intractable. Star was getting desperate. Cessation of hostilities with Fiona had been fresh when she'd first approached Phil, and they couldn't last forever. She was going to have to find a misdirection that had staying power. Maybe offering Phil something that he found irresistible. All of this assumed Nico hadn't been having her on, providing Star with her own misdirections. Ugh, Nico. He wouldn't come within a few feet of her except on set, and his sole communication since Central Park had been to send loud, gaudy flowers daily to her dressing room. The card always read the same: "Forgive me." Nope, Star thought each time, handing them over to Oleander to share with other brownies, who ate them with relish, then picked their teeth with the stems. Watching Nico wear his hair shirt was satisfying, and Star was doing just fine with the silence. She had a new project in Phil. "Mortals steal from me." Phil slurped sriracha from his mug. "If my possessions are under threat, I can't help myself. It's in the blood. Even if I let you in, I'd feel you in there rooting around. And you'd end up mangled or maimed or smoked, and I'd end up fired, and my therapist would have to see me 4 times a week instead of 3. Star shivered. It was like talking to Hannibal Lecter about his favorite recipes. Phil ran his long tongue around the inside of his cup, lapping up the final drops of the hot sauce. Sigh, there's never enough. A small explosion lit Star up. That was it. Sriracha was going to save the day. Over the past months, Star had observed a few interesting facts about the effect of sriracha on Phil the dragon. For one thing, he could sip it by the gallon. For another, it sent him into a blissful meditative state that reminded her of her brother Bill getting stoned on the couch in their basement in Maryland. She'd brought in bottles of the stuff from time to time as a gift to their magazine reading security guard, but now she was going to give him more than he could handle. The next day, she cleaned out the Costco warehouse of their supply of the condiment and began importing 5-gallon jugs of Senor Sriracha through the portal, stacking them in her dressing room. 3 days later, the room had filled with 14 containers, and Oleander had questions. "Glad you asked," said Star, "because I'm going to need your help." Oleander clapped her hands in delight until Star revealed how close she was going to have to come to the dragon. "All you have to do is make sure he keeps drinking," said Star. She had brought along a series of PVC pipes linked together in a looping, swirling shape to serve as a crazy straw that would slow the draw on Phil's slurping ability. Based on observing the dragon, Star guessed he'd go through 5 gallons every 2 minutes, which would give her nearly a half an hour to get in, search, and get out. "Oleander is not on board with this at all," said the brownie. "Must Ms. Star do this?" "Star must," she said, giving the brownie a hug. "But if you don't want to help, I'll ask." "No." Oleander stood firm. "Of course Oleander is there to help, but Star must be quick and careful. Yes?" "Hell yes," Star nodded. "I'll be faster than I've ever been before." With that, they wheeled out the containers in a cart and unveiled them in front of the dragon. "For you," said Star, waving her hand over the containers like an assistant at one of those game shows Mama loved watching. Phil smoked appreciatively and dropped his magazine. "For me?" "For putting up with my endless questions," said Star. "I even got you a special straw." Delighted, Phil snatched up the PVC pipe construction in his recently painted talons, stared into it, and began to bounce with excitement. The entire lobby shook. Oleander peered from behind Star. "Oleander is here to help with the containers," said the brownie, voice weak but steady. "No eating brownies, yes?" Phil's eyes were wide. He could barely focus on anything other than the bounty of containers in the shopping carts. "No brownie eating. Got it," he muttered. "Sriracha me." Star had plotted this out as best she could. Secrecy was optimal. She didn't want to provoke questions or have someone in charge tell her what she couldn't do. Chris was directing that afternoon, which meant they were bound to start late. Jason was out at a network meeting all morning. She'd convinced the Harrys and makeup fae to do her early, getting her hair pinned back and held in place, and slid into costume before bringing Phil the goodies. She patted the pockets of her bomber jacket and nodded. Don't go. Oleander grabbed onto Sam's jacket. Sam is her character. Too much danger. Not if you help. Star hugged the brownie and took a deep breath, imagining Sam, fearless, game for anything. She shot a quick glance at Phil, who was settling against the outer wall of the cave, eyes fluttering closed as he slid into sriracha bliss. Her heart was pounding. Time to do this thing. She flattened herself against the cave entrance and tiptoed in like a ninja. Her phone's flashlight app illuminated the dim cave interior, a cool breeze caressing her cheeks. A thigh-high brown shag rug swallowed up her legs, and she felt like she was walking through very tall grasses. Though she tried to move quickly, the shag dragged her on her momentum. As she passed through Phil's living quarters, she noted a stereo system with speakers the size of refrigerators, a lava lamp with what looked like real molten rock inside, and giant posters pasted on the rough walls for films like Firestarter, The Towering Inferno, and Lair of the White Worm. Abruptly, the sea of shag ended, and the room broke open into a space even more vast and imposing than the lobby she'd left behind. A deep pile of glowing gold coins obscured the floor, illuminating the room with a warm glow. Fairy gold, she thought. Guess they have to store it somewhere. Star leaned down to pick up a coin, then jerked back. No point in prematurely waking the beast from his bliss. On entering the cave, she ran out of plan. She had no idea what it would look like inside, and so she had no idea how to start looking for scripts. But that turned out to be the easy part. Amid the piles of gold and shining gems stood a series of battered and rusting file cabinets. Some were as tall as Star, others loomed over 2 stories high. Drawers hung open here and there, coughing up loose pages and stapled together script-sized sheaves. It was as daunting as a look from Fiona, and Star sighed, grasping the task at hand. There wasn't enough sriracha in America to give her the time she'd need to properly investigate in here. Phil would die of an overdose before she could even make a dent. And I'll pause there.
All righty. That's wonderful stuff. Now, some. Can you hear me now? You're not hearing me. No, I'm not hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?